Pick Up the Pace is a rugby union podcast hosted by All Black super fan and Anaru Ryle, two passionate rugby fanatics from Wainuiomata, New Zealand, who go deep into everything rugby without taking themselves too seriously.
Welcome back to Pick Up the Pace podcast. You with your man, All Black superfan and
Anaru Ryle, and today we have a very special guest born on the 15th of July 1975 in the beautiful Palmerston North, went to school at Te Nana College and from Ngāpuhi and Ngāti Raukawa, husband of Karen, and together they have 3 kids, son Renata, who plays for Washington DC in the Major League Rugby competition in the United States, and daughters Kaya and Bria.
he played for the New Zealand under-21s and the New Zealand Māori team, Club Rugby for Petone and Northcote, Provincial Rugby for Wellington and North Harbour, Super Rugby for the Highlanders and the Chiefs, one of the Legends of New Zealand Sevens team, playing 96 matches and scoring 113 tries. 2001 Rugby World Cup Sevens champion and 2002 Commonwealth Games gold medalist. And now a rugby commentator covering many tournaments, including the Rugby World Cup in Japan and the world-renowned World Sevens Series circuit.
He oi, ko tēnei a Ngāti Raukawa e kōrero ana ki a Ngāti Raukawa nō reira e te whanaunga, tēnā koe, nau mai, and welcome to the Pick Up the Pace podcast, the legendary Karl Te Nana.
Cheer, brother. Good to have you on board.
Hey, kia ora, boys. No, I've been waiting for you guys to give me a ring to get on the podcast. It's been too long, boys. So it's mean hearing your fellas' vibe. It's awesome.
Nah, thanks, bro. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and have a yarn with the brothers, cuzzy.
Always a pleasure, bro. It's actually really cool to see you guys, like good Māori boys, doing some good stuff, man. So it's really cool.
Ah, kia ora to that, brother. Cheers. Hey, cuz, so you had an awesome career and you've had some outstanding achievements, but let's go back to where it all began, bro. Can you tell us about your childhood and what it was like growing up in the Te Nana household?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's always rugby's been in the veins from the word go. You know, like granddad played for New Zealand Māori, and it was always up. They live in Nainai, or house is still down there in Nainai and Lower Hutt, and you know, granddad had his New Zealand Māori team in the sitting room. That's all you'd see, and that was what we probably held more higher than the All Blacks. I'll be honest, when we were growing up, and then the old man played for Waikato and in Northern as well, you know. So I mean, every time we were out and about, we always had a rugby ball in the hands, and then going out there and getting smashed by the cousins and trying to learn how to tackle. That's why I stayed wide and just ran. So you know, it's always been in the bloodline. So it's it's probably natural that it's sort of went down that track.
Yeah. So you've got a few siblings. So where you sit in the picking order? You're the oldest or youngest, or?
I'm the youngest and I'm the only boy, bro. So it's it's been a bit of a tutelage growing up. You know, I've got 3 older sisters. One lives in Melbourne and 2 are up here in Auckland. So it's quite funny when I first made the Wellington Lions team. All the sisters would come out and then I wasn't allowed to talk to any lady. So I don't know how the wife got past those guard dogs, but she did anyway. And so okay, she still lives to tell the story.
So where was your family home, bro?
Yeah, mum and dad went. The whānau's from Wellington, but mum and dad moved up to Palmy for mahis, and then I was born there, and then we're there for 3-4 years, and then we sort of based out of there. But I'll be honest, bro, I couldn't wait to get out of the joint, and ain't much doing in Palmy. And then once I made professional football, all our New Zealand Sevens camps were based in Massey and Palmerston North.
True. So back home you went, eh?
Oh yeah, bro, it was relentless. But it's a good childhood growing up, and still got some good mates there. So it's not too bad.
Yeah. So being the youngest and having 3 older sisters and that, I suppose they were trying to keep you under the thumb, trying to protect the younger brother and that. Were you type of a cheeky kid, or did you get in much trouble?
Nah, not really. I mean, if you call bombing the intermediate, you get into trouble, then I suppose. Nah. I mean, I was pretty good. I was spoiled. I'll be honest. I was a mummy's boy because the sisters went to Hokariri up in Hawke's Bay. They were in boarding school, so it was me and mum for a long time until I went to Te Nana. So, no, I mean, it's just been. Parents did a pretty good job with us. No one was in too much of dramas, and you always brought up respectful and that. If not, then you got to cope across the backside with a jug cord. So it was pretty easy to sort that out.
Yeah, I remember those.
It was all good fun though, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned Te Nana College, eh? So you went to Te Nana College, which to all of our listeners is a Māori secondary school based in the Hawke's Bay. So for you, Karl, how important is the Māori language and culture to you, and how did your time at Te Nana shape you as a person?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one because all my uncles and that went to Hatotipen out in St. Stephen's up here in Auckland. So it's mum's brother went to Te Aute, and then my cousin went there. So that's how I ended up going there. But I loved it. I loved everything about it. As soon as I walked through the gates, and back then, it was a pretty old school type scenario, and it was you learn pretty quick about things and how to do things and be respectful. But for me, like being around Te Reo and being immersed in it, especially not being doing that previously, because Mum was big on the Palangi side with science and English and stuff like that. Māori wasn't really the big push for her when I was at in the younger grade. So going to Te Aute where it is, it was compulsory to take Te Reo and right up until sixth form. I loved it, bro. I loved it, and getting that connection from where you're from and knowing where you're from, and
Yeah, for sure.
it sort of it makes you whole. So it's still got a lot of affinity, still a lot of good mates I keep in touch with from those days, and I think it's really important to be able to know that, so you try and pass it on to the kids, and I would have loved to have sent my young fella there, I'll be honest, but it just didn't work out that way.
Have you managed to retain your deal?
Not to that extent though.
Yeah.
I was actually been thinking about taking up courses to get back amongst it, but it's just finding the time, which is always tough, But it's no excuse. So definitely keen to get back amongst it. I've got a few mates around the hood around here where we live that have gone total immersion, and or something to really aspire to. And even the wife's starting to look at going on doing some classes, and she's PG, and so I won't have an excuse soon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, cool, bro. So, brother, George Napier, the greats, Buck Shelford, Piri Wepu, Ricky Flutie, Norm Hewitt, Kane Hames, some of the famous rugby players who come out of Te Aute College. Who are some of your notable players, bro, that you played rugby against during your time or your years at Te Aute College?
Playing against, geez Louise. I mean, I was in the era we had about 12 traditionals, around the country, and one of the first ones I always had to go to, and ones you didn't like seeing in the pre-season when you turned up to school, was Wesley College. So there's a guy called Jonah Lomu to play against for 5 years, which just wasn't really much fun, I'll be honest with you boys. So it's being a big man.
Last night we're actually talking about it. We're wondering, wonder if Carl marked down Jonah, wonder how that went down.
No, he was number 8. Oh, he was number 8 back in those days. So thank goodness. But I remember one time we were playing up in Wesley, and my mate, he was on the left-hand wing, and Jonah was in the boot. He said, swap for this move. I was okay. I didn't really realise what was going on. And then I looked, I was on the short side, and he knew Jonah was going to come around to the right side of the boot of the scrum. Oh, man, so needless to say, I was a bit of a speed bump, but, like playing against those guys and Carlos Spencer, and I remember we had Pitty's brother, Billy, you know, Big Show from down there, Wainui.
Yeah.
He was our centre. Yeah, he was the man, he was the man at school, and we were doing Central Regions trials, so we come down to Levin to have our trial for the Central Regions, and whoever made that team went on to go on and get picked for the New Zealand schools. So we were warming up and Levin, and we looked over the other side. There's a skinny white kid marking Big Show, Billy, and we thought, bro, you're going to have a field day today, breather. And then anyway, we got to the first half, and the skinny white kid scored about 5 tries on Big Show. We go, holy smokes, man, you get smoked by this Palangi. Ended up being Christian Cullen.
Oh, true.
Yeah, bro. So fair enough, you take those ones.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
you mentioned you played with Billy. Who are some of the other players you played with, bro?
Geez, I don't know if anyone else went on to do anything half-play decent, I'll be honest. But, there wasn't really... Mano Flutie, I suppose, Ricky's brother. He's obviously pretty decent.
He's a
Mano was
good Avalon boy, played for Avalon down here in Wellington, Mano Flutie.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, he was one of the most talented guys, like all round. He could play tennis. He was awesome, man. He could play badminton, he could play bowls, and he was just a man, So he was one of the most talented blokes I've ever seen in sports in general. That fella.
Oh, nice one, bro.
Hey, bro, when you left school, you played a lot of 15s rugby, eh? So you played club rugby, provincial rugby, super rugby, and representative rugby. But you also had an outstanding career, as we all know, in rugby sevens. So the question is, how did you manage playing both formats during this time early in your career?
Yeah, I think that was just something that sort of happened, back in those days. It was a very similar game, so you could cross code. Yeah, and I just love playing code, I'll be honest with you. So by the time you got sick of Gordon Titchens and him thrashing you, you sort of got into the 15s, and it was a very different environment. and then you get into some stuff there, you know. So I didn't mind the balance. It sort of counteracted each other, so you got a good vibe in both, you know. And I suppose it was just hard when you started getting into the high grades and stuff like that. But you had to sort of pick one or the other. But you know, I mean, like to go 5 years, I think it was basically 7s, 15s, basically 7s, 15s. It was cool, bro. You know, we just loved the game, and it wasn't for the money, it wasn't for the socials, it wasn't for the recognition or all that stuff. It was just playing with your mates and having a good vibe and doing what you love. So I reckon we're probably one of the luckiest times to play rugby, because it was, you know, it wasn't so much about the money deals or the broadcasting deals and all that sort of carry on.
That's right, and that was just before rugby turned professional as well, right? So a lot of playing for the love of the game.
Yeah. There was a bit of that, you know, and we're sort of in the period where when it did go pro, there's a lot of grey area to sort out, you know. So I mean, there's pros and cons for both, you know. But I mean, for me, and just talking to a couple of the current All Blacks, even they said they would have loved to been able to play, you know, in our era, because you went out, you had a game, you went after the game, you go to the supporters club, you go meet with the opposition team, you have a few beers and talk a bit of jibber jabber, and then off you go, you know. Whereas when it's professional, the rules change. You know, you can have a couple of beers in the opposition changing room, and you don't connect with your fans so much like that, you know. And then teams are off onto their next gig and doing their rehab and prehab and all this sort of stuff, which is, you know, you have to do. But I think there's still an element that you got to be able to mix and mingle with your fans, because they're the ones ultimately are coming through the gates, and the people that are watching are the ones who want to entertain.
So you mentioned Gordon Titchin. So back in the day there, like who inspired you, bro? Like who encouraged you to start actually playing sevens, and when did you actually really think, hey, this is my game, this is what I want to play? When did that all start?
I mean, sevens was always, especially in Wellington, once after I left school, there was all that Trentham sevens. We always used to get out there, and all the big boys used to play, and you'd have your club, you're running against Philo Titus and Lamu Demirs and those sort of dudes, then vibing once they picked the provincial teams. But and the nationals was always a big carrot, you know, and going down there. And I mean, Hong Kong, we always used to watch them at 3 o'clock in the morning and seeing the likes of Jonah carving up and Rushy and dudes like that, and then just talking to them. And that was the first sort of, I went to my first nationals, getting into the hotel with all the teams was something new to me. Obviously, with the 15s, you sort of on your own hotels and do your own vibe, but getting amongst that and getting to talk to the likes of Eric Rush in the hallways, and, you know, getting inspiration from him. And I remember the first time I met him down in Palmerston North, and he said, you know, you're doing good, young fella. Just gave me a few words of encouragement, and it really meant a lot, you know. So there's one guy I'd say that really influenced me right from the get go, and then the more you sort of succeed in it, the more you sort of gravitate towards that sort of that style as well, you know. So it's always been something I loved, and I'm lucky enough to be successful at it and do some cool things.
That's been surreal though, like you say, you know, coming into the sevens team, closer environment, you know, a lot less players in the 15s, and being around the greats like your Eric Rush in there. It must have been pinching yourself, bro, you know, sometimes. Yeah,
well, the thing is, when I first made it, we're doing the Prince of Wales Cup. Actually, we had the old Māori All Blacks trials up here in North Harbour, and Gordon rang me. I was playing for Central, so we finished our game against Waiponamu, and we're in the Pounamu, actually up on the North Harbour there, and Gordon rings me, says, "Oh, look, I want you to come into camp tomorrow and trial out for the World Cup qualifier in Portugal."
Wow.
So, yeah, me. Yeah, so we finished our Prince of Wales, and there's Māori boys too. We had a couple, and then ended up having a couple too many, and the guys that had been in there previously, like the Brad Flemings and Della Seymour's, like, "Oh, cuz, you know, we've got fitness testing and stuff tomorrow, we've got hard training." Nah, it should be sweet. Anyway, we turned up at training the next day, and we did all the fitness tests, and, you know, fair enough, it was pretty tough. It was, easy, man, sweet ass. But then I didn't realise we had the field training after that. So I got introduced to what Gordon Titchin calls death, this game called death. So needless to say, so I sort of died there, and Gordon Titchin was quite proud of making me vital on my first training. So it's right from then I sort of realised, it's an extreme sport, and you have to mentally be tough. But I loved this right off the get-go, just the closeness of the boys and their different vibe, and, you know, it's just something that really, really fit. So it was right from the get-go, it was something that sort of just went straight into.
Yeah, cool. Hey, just as part of our research, our Uncle Google says you started your Sevens career in 1996. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. The World Sevens Series, as we know it, started in 1999. So what we want to know is what happened before 1999 in terms of the tournament. So how often were tournaments on, and where were they?
Yeah, I mean, we had they always had these sub ones that were been there from the get go, like the Hong Kong, Dubai, Punta del Este, and Uruguay and Mar del Plata. So would always be in camp during the New Year's. That's when those ones are on, and then we started making individual ones. It wasn't a collective like it is now. So they still had the Londons and the likes like that. So it's we had one in Jerusalem actually, the Holy Sevens. I remember going there. Yeah, that was a bit out of it. So
yeah. When was that? What year was that?
That was must have been 98, I think it was.
Oh, jeez.
98, yeah, but 96 was in Portugal. That was the World Cup qualifier, and then 97 was the World Cup in Hong Kong, and the tournament started getting bigger and bigger in there, and then then they had the start of the series in 1999. So I was lucky enough to score the first try in the series in Dubai against Tonga, which we won I think about 14-12.
Oh.
The very first game on the series, yeah.
Close one too, eh? Close call.
Yeah,
So,
well, the Tonglans, eh?
Yeah, bro. So you were involved in a star-studded Sevens team during your career. What was it like, bro? We talked about Eric Rush before, Gordon Titchens, eh? But what was it like just being on the same team as those players, the greats, the Eric Rush, the Pai Kokoriki Express, Christian Cullens, and the Colossus Legend himself, Jonah Loma? You talked about playing against him at number 8 when you're at high school on the wing and things like that, and then all those tough training sessions and the regimental style of Gordon Titchens. And
yeah, I mean, the boys like Jonah and Cully and Jolly Banderi is another one, and Caleb Ralph, Roger Randall. I mean, those guys love coming back to the Sevens because, no one really cared. If you were Jonah Loma, you'd still get shit like everyone else, and I suppose that was the beauty of it. Everyone was on the same level and treated each other the same and took the piss out of each other. And Eric Rush, his quote was, "We're only a team between the whistles. Other than that, it's every man for himself." So that was sort of the mentality, is like having a bit of fun and making a joke of it. But if you're not on point, then someone's going to jerk you. So it was always good times. And like you say, having those lower numbers, you get quite close and stuff. And even like you sort of forget how big some of these guys are because you're so close, and they're just one of the boys, So when they go away, say like one time I think we're up in London, and Jonah and Joe really were playing for the Barbarians, So on day one we were over in the Harlequins Club doing our round robin stuff, and you could hear 80,000 shouting for Jonah when he's running over 5 English blokes, and for the Barbars. But then as soon as that was over, he came and played for us on the Sunday, So it's him and Joe Ellie. So it's it was that sort of vibe where they'd want to come and play, but you forget how big these guys globally are, So we're like, whatever, you drop kick, go get the water. And you see all these people trying to go get a touch of Joe when he's going to get the water. So it was quite surreal. But it was to this day, even like Cully's one of the most humblest blokes. He's another guy that you sort of forget is probably one of the best fullbacks we've ever had, and to play in a black jersey. But he's just one of the boys, And I think that's something we still sort of chill and vibe with now, and just pretty lucky, pretty lucky and pretty special to be part of a team that had so many guys that sort of changed the game, and
absolutely.
Not only for New Zealand but globally. Some of these guys, what they did in the black jersey and at the highest level, no one's ever been able to replicate again. So it's pretty cool to be able to call those dudes mates, and still be able to vibe now and everything be cool.
So I heard Eric Rush, a few whispers that he's a bit of a jokester, eh? What sort of crack up jokes or something that were, on tour, like any stories when you're rooming or?
Oh yeah, no, he was. He's too intelligent for half of our mugs. I'll be honest with you, I can tell you that. That's why it was too easy to take the piss out of some of these boys. But I remember we were in Hong Kong, and I was only young, and when a young guy, usually the youngest gets on their first tour, room with the captain. So sweet as. And then Eric was quite meticulous, with his rim and what have you, and being a young fella, he just chuck stuff down, and he goes, boy, you don't chuck your stuff down, you got to put your stuff nicely and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, sweet as. Anyway, after the next training, we come home the next day. He's got the black insulation tape and he's put it right down the middle of the room. And he goes, "That's your side, and this is my side, all right?" And I noticed how we put the TV on his side. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, shot call, sweet ass."
Oh, what a cracker.
And he goes, "Hey," "Where's the remote?" "Hey, on my side." I had to get up and change the channel every time. Rushy was one of those guys, though, like that made you feel comfortable, but, and it made you want to play for him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say much, but when he did, it sort of meant a lot, So, he was a jokester when we got up and he did his speeches and we did our promos and that. It was really funny, but I think the thing and probably what sticks out for me, he was probably the best captain I've ever been involved with and ever seen operate, and making people probably play above their level than what they thought they could themselves, So I think he's one of those guys that really galvanizes a team and stands up for the lads when he needs to, but makes them work when he thinks they need to as well. So I think that's been a real secret of probably Rushy, and I think he's, between him and Serevi, probably the two best blokes to ever play the game of sevens.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. So you mentioned before, Sir Gordon Titchens, the training regiment. What was it like being coached by the legendary Gordon Titchens, and what would a normal training day be like?
Yeah, like when I was saying, we had our camps down in Palmerston. Like, if he didn't think we were fit enough, he'd go to Rushy and say, "Look, we need to go for a run." So we'll get up at probably 6 o'clock in the morning. We'll do this probably 30, so it was equated to a 30-minute sprint around the field. So we'll do that till 6:30, quarter to 7. Then we'll go have a wash, have breakfast at 7:30. We'd be back on the field at 9. And we didn't have any restrictions back in those days in terms of how long you could stay on the fields and stuff like that. Like the Players Association now, you can only be on the field for an hour this day, an hour that day. Well, that wasn't in play when we were training. So when we were playing, so we'd go on the field at 9 and we'd be training till 12. So we'd have 3 hours straight running. And when I mean running, like when we had water, he'd stop the stopwatch, and then it started again once we got into our drills or games or whatever we're doing. So, it was an hour training, but it blew out to, say an hour, but it'd be 3 hours in total, So
far out.
Then we'd break for lunch, have lunch, and then we'd do an afternoon session and probably play games, 6 or 7 games on top of that. So that was a normal day. And I'll be honest, like it was so intense. If we didn't have a fight, it was probably a good day at the office because, guys, we trained how we played, and I suppose that's why we were so successful. And I suppose the strength of Gordon was he made you mentally tough. He made you fit, but he made you mentally tough. Was probably not the most technical coach. I thought Rushy took a lot of that on board in terms of how we would defend or how we would attack. But that would get you in the line. He'd break you and then he'd go harder, and that's probably been a real feature of why so many players went through the sevens program and then gone on to be All Blacks just because they're mentally tough, and that was probably a reason why we beat the Fijis and beat the other teams like Samoa, the Pacific Island teams. There was a lot of teams that were physically better than us, but we were the fittest on tour and we were the mentally toughest, so we'd just grind people down. We'd come up with tactics, way we want to approach teams and would snap them, and that's why we won so many series on the trot. And now the landscape's changed and he's had to recalibrate and do that, but that's why he's been so successful, the most successful coach in the game of sevens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's like the old saying, even with boxers, it's not what you do in the ring, it's what you do outside of the game, that makes you good.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that's what, because Rushy's a mad boxer as well. So, there's a point where you get to physically, but that's when the mind has to take over, and there's a lot of similarities in terms of those two sports, And when you get to that top level, that's all it's about, It's all about mental. It's all about who can push, who can snap the other person. It's not so much about the physical because everyone's pretty much the same there. So, that's been a big part of the sevens is that mentality.
So from 1999 up until 2003, when you retired, it was a golden era for the New Zealand Sevens team. You had the World Sevens Series, which started in 99. You had the World Cup Sevens in 2001. You had the Commonwealth Games in 2002. Looking back at this era of success, which moments stand out for you during this period and why?
Probably running out with the boys, being able to lead the boys out for the Rugby World Cup and Mar del Plata in Argentina there. We'd never won one previous to that. And Rushy had gotten injured the day before finals day, you know, so it was a pretty somber moment. We were playing England, and me and Rushy effected a tackle on one of the English boys, and he ended up shattering his fibula. So he got put on the plane straight away back to NZ on finals day, and we had to say goodbye to him and did a big haka, and then all the boys were having a bit of a tonguey, and we went up to the rooms a bit somber, and then got a phone call goes in the room, and it was Titch saying, "Oh, can you come into the room, please?" I was like, "Oh, okay, sweet." Didn't really know what it was for, what it was about, and then Titch goes, "Oh, well, I want you to captain my team for the last day at the World Cup," and sort of come as a shock, I'll be honest, and didn't really recognise what it all meant. So I said, "Oh, I can have a couple of minutes to think about it. Just go to my room." He goes, "Yeah, sweet." First call I made was back to mum and dad and say, "Oh, what do you reckon?" The old man goes, "Oh, well, you don't get many chances to captain your country, so why not give it a nudge?" So, sweet as, sounds good to me, and sort of went back to Titch and said, "Yeah, no, good to go." So, you know, it was a real privilege to be able to run out in front of 40,000 screaming Argentinians, you know, and lead the boys, and Jonah was Rushy's roommate there, so he was on a mission to really stand up for his buddy. So it was just one of those days in the game of sevens that I've never ever been able to say that we played the most purest sevens I've ever been a part of. You know, everyone was just at their maximum, and where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. There wasn't much communication on field. Everyone was just on that level we used to call the green zone, where everything's just perfect. And there's probably 3 games of perfect sevens I've ever been a part of, and we never reached there again. But to be able to do that for Russia and for the country, and for it to be our first ever Rugby World Cup of sevens win, and to be able to be the one to lift it, you know, first for us, was something that sort of stands out straight away from mine. It's always going to be something special.
And what about in 2002 with the Commonwealth Games? So Rushy came back for that, didn't he, eh?
Yeah, no, he came back. But that was a funny one. That was a funny one for me, because I'd been part of the Chiefs and got a bit injured, so I was having these back issues, and only just made the cut, I'll be honest, to get over there, and then had more dramas when we got to England. But I wasn't able to go in the finals. It was a funny old feeling, that one, for me personally, because you know, you always want to be involved, and for me, if I wasn't on the field, I didn't feel like I was doing my part. So it was a tough one for me, you know. So it's something that sort of, I was stoked I did it, and it was a great experience being in the village and mix and mingling, because I was brought up on track and field, and because the old man was a sprinter. So to be able to watch guys like Frankie Fredericks, who I thought was an amazing sprinter, and seeing him go to work, and watching some of the guys when we were back here, New Zealand people when we were back here, and at the Millennium, those individual people doing their trainings like Beatrice Farmoina and those ones go through the way they prepare, was something that was quite unique and cool to see. And but yeah, it was a funny old one for me. But no, really cool to be and privileged to be able to still get a gold medal at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, not everyone can say they got a gold medal either, eh, bro? It's massive.
Yeah, and it's actually near a place where one of my best mates and Shane Cameron. He was over there boxing.
Oh yeah.
And they were on the floor above us. So it's him and Danny Codling and those guys. We used to go watch them do their warm ups, because Russia, like I said, Russia was mad on boxing. So we'd go watch them do their warm ups, and they had a prefab where we used to, right next to where we used to train. So we'd watch them warm up and go through their stuff, and then motivate the boys to go out there, and we'll go out and do our training. So it was pretty cool to be in the same place as them and see how they go amongst their business as well. It's cool.
Yeah, nice. So the Hong Kong Sevens, who started back in 1976, man, that makes me feel old. It's only a year after my birthday.
Before I was born, bro.
Before you were born. You're just a little baby snapper. And so it's the most famous sevens tournament in the world. What makes the tournament so popular?
I mean, like I said, for me, you know, like getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and watching the Hong Kong Sevens, watching the Eric Rushes and Dallas Seymours play against those legendary Fijian sides, and the games that they play were amazing, you know. And then you see Jonah blow up, then you see Cully blow up, and then you see Glenn Osborne blow up, and just seeing how it was a launch pad for for a lot of guys to go on and make the black jersey was something quite special, you know, and just the TV coverage and the hype that was around it. You know, it was one of the first tournaments where it was a party. It had all the lights and the glamour, and one of the big things was the ads. Hong Kong always had cool ads, so that's when everyone would get up in between games and start dancing. And then you got the South Stand, which was the party zone, which was, you know, crazy. You see 15, 20,000 people in one stand just going nuts and all having a good time. And, you know, it was the first taste of the big show for a lot of us, you know, in terms of rugby and what an event was, not just a rugby game, it was an event. So, like you said, it's got that history behind it. There's so many great players that had graced the field there and global superstars, you know, and to be able to be a part of that and first time to really experience that was something crazy, you know. And I was hooked right from the get-go as soon as I ran out and you go into Suncorp Post Stadium, you just see that South Stand buzzing. It was just everything about it I just loved. And just to be a part of it and then to see your mates like Cully and Joe carving up and just to try and be there and emulate that was something that's always something pretty cool.
So you won the tournament a couple of times, eh?
Yeah, we won. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get to 1-3, I think. And the thing is too, bro, like because it was such a big tournament, everyone went overs to try and win it. So it was and then. And back in those days, you had like 100,000 US as the prize money. So the Fijians would always, that's why they were so successful. They'd always bring the big boys there to try and get the money, you know. So that's probably why it ended up being so epic between us and them, you know, for a long time. So it was always, if you can get game supremacy there and then beat the Fijians predominantly, then, you know, you're doing okay.
100K, jeez.
You talked about Fiji, right? Which countries did you enjoy playing against the most and why?
Yeah, I mean, Fiji always, because they got the best. That was the best. They were probably the ones that we had the most history with. Obviously, with Hong Kong predominantly, and then Dubai was another one where they had a lot of history behind it. It's been going for a long time, a lot of prize money, and then you had like a Mar del Plata. There was Punta del Este. They had cars on the line. If you want the car, then you split that up and stuff like that. And that was the incentive for Fiji to bring their top team and. That's what you gauge yourself on when you're playing the likes of Waisale Serevi and Marika Vunimbaka and Philemoni De La Salle and those guys, you know, they bring the best out in you. And so that was probably something that for me, always tried to gauge yourself against. And Aussie had a good team one year too. I think that's the other team like enjoyed playing against. But the problem's always never mind playing against them, you never wanted to lose against those blokes.
Just looking back at your illustrious career, your illustrious Sevens career, what is one thing that you are most proud of looking back?
I suppose just feeding on what our ethos was, passing it on to Liam was the next captain after me. So I think Rushy passed it down to me of what I spoke about, like making sure the boys are on point, passing on that no one's bigger than the other, and it's all about respect and humbleness, you know. And Rushy and predominantly started that, passed it on to me, and I think for me, to be able to pass it on to Liam, we passed it on to DJ and those guys, you know, it's something that I hold quite close and quite proud of, and being able to be a part of a team that's been so successful and that being the main thread of it. And even Alan Bunting, who was part of the New Zealand Sevens there for a little bit, and he's coaching New Zealand Women's Sevens now, he's used that ethos to create what he's doing with his skills at the moment has been really successful. So to be able to say you're a part of that and other people take that and emulate that and be successful is probably something that you're always going to hold close and something I'm pretty proud of, I suppose.
No, awesome, bro. We all know that the rugby sevens is now an Olympic sport, which means other countries like the US are investing more resources into the game and becoming more competitive. And we've seen that as the results through the recent years and that. Do you reckon New Zealand should be right about this, bro, or consider selecting All Blacks 15-a-side players again?
Yeah, I mean, we got lost there for a little while. We got caught behind the 8 ball about 4 years ago, you know, and that's when a lot of the countries did catch up, you know, when they did put money and resources and more thought into their programs, you know, and centralise. I suppose that's probably the thing we got caught at. We weren't centralised quick enough, and a lot of teams were. So we'd get in to training for a week, and then they'd go over and then have their game week. So you know, they were catching up. You know, they can do their fitness, but team wise and combination wise, they only had 2 weeks under their belts, whereas other countries such as the US and Canada and their likes would be together, you know, 4 weeks or 3 weeks out of the month, which is a huge difference. So that was something that we sort of got caught flat on. But, the boys have adjusted to that, and they're all centralised now. And I think at the moment we've probably got the most consistent team on the circuit, most successful team. We're at the top of the standings. And I think at the moment for the series, and I think we're in a good place. We're in a good place right now over the last, 18 months, 20 months. I think we've seen a real change with Clark Laidlaw being back in their team. And a lot of it's been player-driven, I'll be honest. Like, we've got a lot of experience here with Scott Curry and Timmy Mickelson, and we've got a lot of boost with enthusiasm of these young blokes as well. So I think it's probably the first time we've had a fully fit squad in a long time. So I think that's really, really made a huge difference for our lads in this season in particular.
What do you reckon? Like the All Blacks 15-a-side players and join them into the sevens. Is that unfair? We've seen it back in Argentina, and the likes of Sonny Bill coming in, and a few, a couple of players left out, and or just stick to the sevens that we've got now, bro.
Oh, I mean, if Damien McKenzie put his hand up and said, "You know what, I want to come and play sevens," I don't think he'd say no. You know what I mean? Or a Rico, or a Rico Ioane, or guys like that. I mean, Georgie Bridge. I mean, far out. Even Sedri. I mean, you try and stop that bloke. He loves the physical stuff. You have him on the edge. That's another beast altogether. So I mean, love to see those blokes amongst it. I'm sure they'd love to be amongst it. And to be honest, I mean, before this virus, I mean, there was nothing much doing anyway in terms of the All Blacks. There's no Lions. They've got Scotland and Wales, and no disrespect to them, but they're very different squads. There's no real big carrot apart from an Olympics. So I think the All Blacks or whoever, NZRU, HQ, they should have said, look, open up the teams. If you want to go play for the Natal Olympics and play for the sevens, there's open book, you go hard. But sometimes we go back to front here in New Zealand, so I would have loved to have seen it, and I'm sure a lot of the boys would have loved to have been a part of it. So it's, and I know a lot of the other seven squads countries have got some big boys in the wings waiting as well. So, it's probably an opportunity. We talk about brands. They've got this new All Black 15 they've brought in and created, but there's no bigger brand than the Olympics. So why not have your bigger stars there that want to be there and showcase them and say, look, this is the All Black Sevens, this is the All Black brand, and get it out there that way, So for me, it's pretty tunnel vision in terms of how they're looking at it. So hopefully that changes, in the near future. But I think it's just a big opportunity missed.
Hey, I just wanted to talk about the women's game. So the women's game has grown hugely since you've retired. So the first Women's Sevens World Series was in 2012, starting with only 4 tournaments. There are now 8 tournaments in this current World Series, but there are 10 tournaments for men. So the women's game is slowly catching up to the men's. But I've got a couple of questions for you around that. When will we see full integration of the men's and women's World Series circuit, and also equal pay? Is it worth paying?
The women are on equal. The women are on equal pay with the lads now in New Zealand. They're that's all squared away, and deservedly so. So I mean, the thing is at the moment it's a tough one, because I know World Rugby are trying to get that equality in terms of the number of series stops for the ladies, and I know they're wanting more co-tournaments held together in terms of what we saw in Hamilton and Dubai and Hong Kong was supposed to be another one. South Africa was one that they I co-hosted, but it's just a tough one at the moment. I think personally, it's hard because 12 hours of rugby. When you have the 2 tournaments, men's and women's together, it's 12 hours of rugby basically, and it's just too long for people, and a lot of numbers are down in terms of going to the games and watching, because no one can stay there for that long. So it's getting a balance, and sometimes I feel the women's get lost amongst the men's tournaments. These ladies are superstars, and sometimes I just think if they're by themselves and at a different time than the men, then we can build them up to be their own global superstars, like the Portia Woodmans, like the Sarah Hiddeneys, like the Stacey Flulas and alike, and grow their brand, and then maybe come together in certain tournaments, like pretty much like what I envision is they'll do it like the tennis. You have the women's tour, you have the men's tour, and then you come together for like Grand Slams, which I think would be cool. But obviously our ladies or the ladies, I should say, would I think it takes a while to grow their brand, and doing it together, I think sometimes they get lost.
Yeah.
Get lost at the moment. So it's just figuring out how to build them up to where they're their own entity and sustainable business-wise and financially, so then they can run and be their own branch. Because these ladies deserve to get, the other ladies, our ladies are fine because they're getting the same as the men, but some of the other countries don't, so it's been able to prop them up and make them stars and get financial backing from different sponsors so they can get the same pay as our girls, and then off they go, because my nieces want to play sevens. They watched the Condors last year and rang me up, Uncle, can we take us for trainings? And they want to get amongst sevens. So cool. My little one, she's thinking about it. She's at MAG, so it's something very close to me, and I want them to be able to, be able to reach those heights and have those opportunities, same as the blokes. So just being a consultant, what I'm doing now with World Rugby is just trying to figure out a way where it all sort of meshes together and both comps are financially viable so we can pay our athletes what they deserve.
Hey, bro, you're now one of the world's top rugby commentators. Can you talk us through how that journey all started around the rugby commentary?
Yeah, well, after 2003, went to Japan and played over there, and then the young fella, he was starting to get a high school age, so we brought him home, and then sort of had 6 months off once we got back, and then the guy who was running the production for I think it was TVNZ back in the days for the covering the Sevens tour series and putting it on TV, I ran into him just happenstance and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, mate, just chilling at the moment." So he goes, "Oh, come down and check out what I do." So he took me into the truck at one of the tournaments and showed me how we all put the broadcast together. I thought, "Oh, this is pretty neat." And then so I ended up just observing a couple of gigs, and then on Code, when we had our Code show, when the fellow who ran it, he rings me up and goes, "Oh, the boys have just won the Seven Series. You want to go and interview them?" So I obviously knew quite a few of the boys. So I said, "Oh, yeah, sweet years." So we went down to Auckland Airport and had a bit of a laugh with the boys, and they put it on Code. And then Sky TV saw it and said, "Oh, look, you want to come and try out a game?" So did some commentary on the game and ended up having a blinder. So they said, "Oh, you want to come and do a couple more?"
Nice.
Pre-season stuff. So yeah, did a couple more, and then I sort of slowly built year after year and got more and more games. And then I tried the coaching. I tried a lot of other stuff and didn't really suit. But for me, the TV just fit right, and it was sort of my way of giving back to the game and what it's given to me. So it's been a journey, bro. It's been like 14 years now since been in the gig, but I love it, And a guy who's close to you and did the intro for you fellas, Ken Laban, he was a real mentor for me early on, and he took me under his wing for my first year and taught me a lot, and taught me a lot of stuff that I could take from my rugby experience in terms of preparation and getting ready for a game and making sure everything's squared away and doing all my prep. Well, you can do that with your TV stuff as well, making sure you got all your team lists, making sure you pronounce the names right, because you don't want to pronounce nephew's name wrong and auntie's waiting for you to give you a slap around the ear, say, "No, that's not right." So just doing all those sort of things right and putting make sure they're all in place. So it's it's been awesome, and that's sort of how I fell into it.
So we actually had the honour of going up to Napier a few weeks ago, bro, watching the Hurricanes versus the Sunwolves, and we hung out in the commentary box for a little bit and seen it all go on. And you forget how you've got the two commentators and how it's actually broadcasted globally. So you've got to try and, I suppose, keep that stuff out of your mind. And people at home, they don't see the work and the preparation behind the scenes that actually goes in to make it seem so fluent, bro. So what are some of the attributes that's required to be a mean-ass commentator?
One thing I sort of found out, it takes a little while to find your confidence, but when you do, for me, it's like, one of my roles at World Rugby is trying to find new talent and bring them on and mentor them. One thing I say to them, is like, you have your basic structure of how you go about your business, your team lists, and what comes up on the pitches, and you talk about it, but everyone sees the game differently. I see it different to you, different to Christian Cullen, different to Ken Laban. Everyone views the game differently in what they look at. So I think for me, it's about being yourself and not shying away from that. You are who you are. So, that's the point of difference for you individually. So if the way I talk about the game is different than Ken's. So Ken's true to him, and I'm true to me, and I think that's what makes a difference. And I think that's a big part of it, and you bring your own character to the TV, you know, without being too silly and going too wayward. You can have a joke. You don't take the piss out of the game or the people that's playing it. You can take the piss out of yourself. That's fine. So that's one thing, you know, you got to be mindful of. You got to be mindful of once you say it, it's out there forever, you know. So you got to get stuff right as much as you can, you know, in terms of pronunciations of people's names. Because you know, if someone said my name wrong, you know, of course you're going to be hurt. So the family. So that's one thing I really try and stress is you got to get the names right, whether it's Māori, whether it's Palangi, whether it's Spanish, whether it's French. It's huge for people to have their family up on TV and playing the game that they love. So for me, that's one thing that's non-negotiable. You got to try and get the names right, and you can't take the piss out of the game or the people playing it. And then on top of that, you have fun with it. You keep true to yourself, and then you know it's just put your head down and work hard and do some good yards. So it's just a privilege. It's a real privilege to be able to be in that position. And that's one thing I really think that some people lose in the commentary box. Sometimes they think they're bigger than the game. Well, the games is what's given us this opportunity. It's a real privilege, and we have some cool officers like you boys saw in Hawke's Bay, whether it be Twickenham. You know, it's a really cool opportunity. So it's you know, you never take that for granted, and you always put your best foot forward because you're only good as your last game, as Ken would say. So it's make sure it's a goodie.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, you've commentated games from first 15 level all the way to Rugby World Cups. What's been the most exciting match or moment that you've called as a rugby commentator?
Oh, geez. That's a tough one. Like last year was my first World Cup from start to finish. Obviously, doing the World Cup final was something that was really special, and I know the old man was pretty proud of, and the family. But to call, I suppose here's one for you. We never had any of the Māori boarding schools on Sky First 15, so. To be there with Ken actually down at Te Aute and doing a home game. I think they were playing Wanganui Collegiate. So for that game to be on first 15 in the first Māori boarding school to beat Te Aute and trying to be part of that was probably something special. I was quite proud of being able to take it back to the old kura. So it's that's probably one that really stands out.
You said that you're now a consultant for World Rugby. Sounds pretty fancy, cuzzy. Jeez, that title. What does that role actually mean, bro?
Yeah, so for me, doing the commentary for such a long time, you know, I wanted to start moving into the administration side. So for me, I want to have more handle on how the Sevens game in particular is run. And there's a lot of decisions being made, I think, in terms of the game. And we just spoke about it before with the women's and the men's. There's some people up north in the head office that were rugby and making decisions that I don't think actually make sense rugby-wise. So I sort of went to my boss and said, look, I want to still keep doing my commentary stuff, but I want to start learning the administration side so I can start building myself up to get in a position to get a seat at the table and start be one of the ones to try and make decisions that count, you know, because being from a former player and now being on the broadcasting side, I've learned that. So if we get the administration side as well, then you can take everything into account and start making, I think, better decisions for our game and how it's facilitated and how it's run and things like that. Because I think at the moment we don't have enough rugby voices on there to say, you know what, well, no, that's not going to work because of X, Y, and Z. Whereas at the moment, some people go, right, let's do this decision, but when it comes to actually performing that and merging it, then it doesn't sort of work. And that's what we're sort of seeing at the moment. And the examples that, like, they took away the quarterfinals in the men's tournaments when the men's and ladies are combined. Well, that's probably one of the most important games in the game of men's sevens, you know, because you get a second chance. But it's just too hard now in the men's side of the draw. You can get tipped up by the likes of Spain or Wales, and that, you know, that's just how it is in the men's. That's just reality in the men's sevens. So to take that major game away, and we saw it, Fiji dropped out, South Africa dropped out in Hamilton, and they were leading the comp at that stage. So I think decisions like that, we just need to be a bit more smart. But I'm just trying to work my way through that and try and get educated and hopefully at some stage try and get up there. And for me, like, my whole buzz now is trying to lead a path for Māori broadcasters, you know, been a lot of firsts, you know, especially with World Rugby and now being in a position where, like I said before, I can mentor, be part of the crew that helps crew the Sevens tournaments, picking the commentators that go on to the series. For me, it's all about trying to promote Māori, or try and promote our Pacific Island brothers and sisters, to say, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're good enough, you can come and be on the Seven Series and be a broadcaster and make a living there. So that's my whole buzz at the moment. And if I can do that at a board level as well, then hopefully can start leading the way to say, if you come from Palmerston North, you can go up and go live in Dublin and start making decisions about our game. Why can't you? A lot of people think we can't. Someone's got to be the first and take the hits, but more than glad to do that. And hopefully we get more of our tangata up there and on the world stage doing it, whether what you guys are doing, broadcasting, or they want to get into administration at World Rugby at the highest level, because I don't think we have enough opportunities, enough people representing.
Carving that pathway for others, not holding that in and saying, hey man, this is my gig, I'm not going to expand on this, but actually bringing people in and and leading them down that road to success, bro. That's awesome, man. Yeah,
and just giving tools, because we can vibe, bro. We can do stuff off the cuff. We can do stuff other broadcasters can't, or other people can't. And I think we should celebrate that. And I think that's probably something we've always, like I said, always brought from the Sevens, and something Ken Laban's instilled in me as well. And I'm just really proud of what some of our whānau can do. So putting them on a platform to succeed and helping them get there, I get just as much satisfaction of seeing that than me getting there myself. So that's my whole buzz at the minute.
Hey, bro, we just wanted to touch on whānau, and the importance of whānau. So we touched on this at the very top of the episode. Your wife Karen and your 3 kids. You're away a lot for your mahi, your work, and your son lives over in the States. Can you tell us a bit more about your whānau and how you all support each other with the busy lives you all have?
Yeah. I told the wife Karen, if I wouldn't marry me if I was you, but she's a good lady. She holds it down at home, and the girls they've known Dad. It's hard, knowing Dad being away, but for me now, like I bring them on tour, say like you pick a couple of legs and they can come along and still vibe that way, just for the last couple of trips in US and with the Sevens in Los Angeles and Vancouver, I went and was lucky enough to go watch the young fella go play in Houston. He was playing for his club, and caught up with him there. And Mahi's on when Mahi's on, and when I'm here during the week, I do all the cooking and cleaning and do the washing and make sure all the girls are ready to go for school and stuff, and pick up and drop offs. And when I'm away in the weekends, that's when the wife takes over and does that. So I suppose in some ways it's quite lucky now. We've got a bit of a break, and actually had to coach the girls' netball team last week. So it's
nice.
It's you do what you do, and try and co-share it with the wife. But it's an important part. They know when I'm home 100%. But they know Dad's got to go to work for a couple of weeks. But you come back and do your yard. So I'm predominantly home during the week. So it's cool. But having 2 teenage girls, bro, it's at home. It's real life, cuz. I know that. It's far around.
Hey, bro, so what's all this, bro? Having your own plaque on the Walk of Fame in Singatoka, Fiji.
It's for me, it's probably one of the most humbling experiences when you're able to get recognised in enemy territory. So it's really cool for me. And the guy who runs it, he's a good mate who runs the Sevens tournament. So they bring an ambassador over. I think Jonah and Campo were the first ones, and then Waisale, and I was lucky to be after Waisale. So they got a few boys over there now, no DJs on the Walk of Fame. And any time you get recognised like that, it's always quite a cool experience. My wife's half Fijian, so it's cool for her to. I've got a link there, and it's like a second home for me going over there, and I get treated so well. And the thing about the Fijian people, they're historians in rugby. They know every single rugby player that comes through Nandi Airport, and they're so engaging, and they're so loving. So it's always a nice place for me to go back. And once they found out that the wife's Fijian, then they sort of treat you like one of their own. So it's really cool. For talk about whānau, I've always been big on taking our kids across and letting them show or experience mum's side of the whānau as well, because we took them to a couple of villages and they didn't have much over there in some of the villages. So for our girls to experience that was an eye-opener, but they loved it, and even though some of these kids can't speak English and the girls can't speak, well, they got limited Fijian, but to see them just go off and run around and have a good time, man, it's actually quite cool and something that they're very aware of. So it's a big part of their lives.
And I think their second team, when I see some of the Fijian brothers, is the All Blacks and the All Black Sevens. They have an immense amount of respect. I can remember I was over there in 2015 having a bit of a holiday, and the guy in the bar, all he wanted was my All Black jersey, bro. And I remember, bro, he was like twice, he was like 3 times, I couldn't believe it. He was like 6'5", he was like 120 kg, and he was a barman. I was thinking, now, happy hour. I'm not going to ask him.
It'll fit, too.
Yeah, bro. But I remember vividly, we went out one night and I seen him outside of the resort, and I was thinking, what's he doing? There's a whole group, and they were getting picked up by a bus, taking them back to their village, and I thought, I seen him the next night, bro. Before I left, I gave him my jersey because I said, there you go, bro.
Oh, man, you would have loved it. You would have loved it, yeah.
So the reality of in Fiji, and being in that type, like you said, some of the kids probably have no shoes or they're struggling. I think it's really important that we give back to our Fijian brothers and our Pacific Island brothers as well, eh?
Oh, yeah, big time, and they love it, I think people sort of forget how big or how many successful Fijians have had. So there's a huge fan support base over there for New Zealand as well, So, I mean, the boys go over there get treated like gods, and I just love the way that I come up and so unassuming. I just want to talk and have a good time, and have a photo and then move on. If you need anything, they're more than willing to give it to you, So if there's any small ways that we can give back, it means a lot to them,
Yep. No, nice one, bro. Well, bro, thanks very much for all that. There was awesome insight into your career and into your commentary and the whānau, bro. We really appreciate that. But we've got a bit of a challenge for you, brother.
Here we go.
Yeah. We call it the Pick Up the Pace Challenge. It's 9 and 10.
You got to earn those 2 crayfish.
Yeah, bro.
Yep,
Ken Laban's got them in the freezer waiting for you.
Ken reckons,
well, I'll get the legs in. I'll get the legs, no tail.
Ken reckons whatever crayfish we catch on the south coast of Wainui, he'll match it. All right, bro. So what we're going to do is, you take that, Anaru.
Yeah, okay. I've got
that.
the timer here.
I'll do the counting, bro.
All right, yeah, sweet.
So you got to name 9 questions in 10 seconds. All right.
9 answers.
9 answers.
In 10 seconds, all right?
Okay.
Here we go.
Here comes the question.
Karl Te Nana, world rugby commentator. Name for me 9 rugby commentators. Go.
Keith Quinn, Ken Laban, Willie Losse, Sean Maloney, Greg Clark, Melody Robinson, Scotty Stevenson. Shillers!
Here we go.
What do we look at?
They only get 7.
Hang on. We've got to go and see us, bro. This is close. Screw the ears. They're looking at me.
What do we got?
I'm disappointed in my effort there, boys. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Cuzzy. We've got 7, bro.
Shivers.
But
Don't tell me Ken got them.
No, but Ken told me if you didn't get 9, you can keep the leagues.
Boys.
To be fair, no one's got it yet.
Yeah, no one's got it
don't
yet.
feel disappointed. I think those first few seconds you were a bit stunned. Like, oh my God.
No, I thought you were going to ask like 9 questions. I was going, holy smokes, no, I'm going to make that. But
you'll be getting
disappointed, boys, disappointed.
You're getting some phone calls later. Hey, what'd you leave me out for, bro?
Because you got work on. Hey.
That's right. Hey, Karl, thank you very much for joining us on the Pick Up the Pace podcast and taking time out of your busy schedule in these very testing times at the moment. We really appreciate it, and we hope to catch up with you again soon. And let us know when you are ever in Wainuiomata, and we'll catch up and have those crayfish together.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, boys, it's a real pleasure to be able to come on and vibe with you guys. I know you fellas are doing some mean mahi, man, so keep up the mean work. And now we'll be down to Wainui. The family's down there. The missus, her family's all still down there. So, definitely catch up, brothers.
Cheers,
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, boys.